Welcome back to Ron's Radio Corner. And honestly, this radio deserves more of a review, more of a discussion than what I'm going to give it here today. I know that. But I wanted to take a few moments to talk about this radio for a few reasons. So, this is the C. Crane CC Radio EP Pro. I believe, yeah. So this is the second version of this. This one is got the DSP chip in it. At least that's my understanding. I picked this up several months ago. I think it has been, to be honest, this radio may be part of the tipping point of why I'm doing YouTube videos talking about radios, and amazingly finding some people who want to watch. Because I'd heard about this radio for a really long time. And I own the GE Super Radio 3. So, and a lot of times when I heard about this radio, it was something along the lines that, that Crane had decided that he wanted to develop a radio for his mother, something that was easy to use and, maybe the heir apparent to those GE Super Radios, and hence he creates, the original EP. So, and then somewhere along the lines, the chip they were using is no longer available, and they have to go back to the drawing board and redesign it with a new chip. And I believe that's the EP Pro, and I think I have the history relatively right there. So the reason this radio deserves a much more in-depth review than what I'm going to do here, or more in-depth discussion, is because this radio enjoys quite the reputation of being a really great performer. A radio that sounds good, it is easy to use, but also has incredible selectivity and the ability to really kind of pull in stations. And part of that is this ability here, and I don't know how well it's going to focus, but there's the twin coil ferret AM fine tuning. That even the tuning knob has kind of got a nice bit of kind of feel to it. It's easy to tune. So I had seen the radio. I had I had an interest because I like my Super Radio 3, and I figure at some point there's going to be a point where the Super Radio 3 may no longer work. At this point it's a 20-plus-year-old radio. That particular, when I got it toward the end of the line, there's already a bit of a reputation that they weren't necessarily the best made. So I was, thought it'd be interesting to have one of these radios. So someone on, online auction site, or an online marketplace, and thought the price was good, picked it up. And I don't think I've ever featured this in any sort of video. Maybe I have. I'm not sure. I think it might have appeared in a few. I might have mentioned it. I don't know if I've really done much with it. But my initial thoughts on this radio was, it was a perfectly nice radio, but it's not one that I was overly impressed with. And I know people who like these radios will probably just think I'm kind of crazy for saying that, but I didn't like it better than my Super Radio 3. I still don't like it better than my Super Radio 3. I think the Super Radio 3 has better sound. Of course, it's a bigger radio with a bigger speaker, but I think it had better sound. I have sat down and gone through the dial, late at night, AM and FM, between the two radios, trying to see which radio pulled in more stations, and it's probably this one, but it's close. At least for me, it was close. A lot of times I'd find stations on the Super Radio 3 that I didn't find on this, then I would fine tune a little bit. Oh, there's that station. But then I would do the same thing with this radio, find a station that I didn't find on the Super Radio 3, and then work to tune that one in and usually find it. So I think this probably does a better job, but in my opinion, it seemed marginally so. And I'm not really someone who's taken my radio to listen to, every oddball station I might be able to find out there. I tend to use my radios to listen to local content. So the local AM station, there's a couple of public radio stations that I'll listen to. There's a few music stations I may tune in from time to time. And then, of course, I have gotten into using these things with a transmitter. So I like the radio. I thought it was a great radio. It did make me wish that GE had sort of stayed true to the original Super Radios, really high quality but very affordable radio, or a lot of bang for the buck, however you want to look at that. But then incorporated some of the features that you see on this that my Super Radio 3 doesn't have. The backlit light for one, but when I was getting ready to move, I get to spend a little more time with this radio, and it was sort of accidental. I was packing up my radios, my little radio collection, and as I was packing them up, it was sort of like doing Tetris in the box. I have one radio and I'm packed it back in its original box. If I had it, I put it in a bigger box and then move the next one and until I could get all these in. And I had really thought that I would keep out my Solar Observer, small radio, a radio I really, really like. And I knew I was going to have several weeks where these would all be packed away, but I would still want to be able to use a radio to listen to local news and all the stuff I mentioned before. So I really thought it was going to be that. But as I'm packing up the box, I'm like, I have room in here for one more radio. So I had already packed up one Solar Observer, and in went the second one, and that was it. This radio was not room in the box for. And I thought, well, this is a perfectly nice radio. I can use this for the next couple of weeks. And I did. And that's when I really started to appreciate just what a nice radio this is. Really easy to use. Sounds really nice. And I could turn this on and, actually, I think this is probably set to where I had the FM transmitter the other day. But let me pause for a second. For some reason the pause isn't working, so we're not going to pause for a second. Let me wing this down here at the bottom of the dial. Let me just slide the radio out of here for a second, turn that volume down, put that up.
Just the prettiest. It was the first movement of Dvorak's romantic pieces, violinist Isaac Stern with pianist Robert McDonald. 7:32, 64 degrees, climbing slowly, but now climbing to near 70. Here's Banter from Telemann's Tafelmusik, the Concert of Nations, led here by Jordi Savall.
So, sure, classical's not everybody's taste. Not necessarily my taste, but they do sound good on the radio. So what I found was, it really was just a nice radio to use, right? I would put it on, the sound is good. I really love the backlit dial. The Solar Observer has the backlit dial, but you have to put on the flashlight to, you have to kind of toggle it over to put it on. This, and it'll stay on if you turn the radio off. This, there's a button to put it on and off, and then you could leave that on, and it goes on and off the radio. The one complaint I had about this radio, and it really wasn't a complaint, but the Super Radio 3 gets louder. It has more volume, and it can be boomier. Of course, the reality of that is I think the volume knob on the Super Radio 3, I don't think it says anything like 1 to 10, but if it did, you really can't get it much past the halfway point before the volume is just distorting. So there's a lot of volume on the knob, but it's not necessarily all usable volume. It can get louder than you could really ever really want to use it. I've always thought that the C Crane radios and the Sanjin table radio that I have, I've always referred to a few of these radios as polite radios, where they have enough volume to be listenably loud, but without kind of being too loud when they're kind of blaring in your face. But using it for those couple of weeks, I thought to myself, this actually does get plenty loud to listen to as I'm kind of bopping around the house. It not as small as the Solar Observer, so usually I would take the Solar Observer and I would move it with me as I started my routine first thing in the morning in the bedroom, and then kind of move it over toward the bathroom as I was shaving or whatever else I needed to do, into the kitchen as I made coffee. With this, I wasn't really doing that. I would leave it more or less in one spot, but it was still perfectly loud enough to listen to as I kind of moved around. And I just really appreciated the fact that this really is exactly what Crane was going for. An easy to use companion radio, something that you don't need to kind of fish out the manual to figure anything out. Anybody can use it. It just does what it's supposed to do and does it well. And I really should sit down with this radio and do a head-to-head with the Super Radio 3, and maybe that'll come, or maybe just one where I spend a little more time and I can tell you about how many stations it can pull in. And I thought about doing that before I sat down with this radio. And I had spent some time with a few of my smaller radios to figure out how many stations they were pulling in on AM and FM and shortwave, and certainly not scientific, just some guy saying, can I get this station? Yes, no, how many did I pull in, how many didn't I pull in? But because of the move, I have no idea if what I was able to pull up from where I was before would even be the same as now. So I thought I had at least something to use as a baseline, and then realized, no, I really don't. So somewhere down the road, I will do another video on this radio where we'll talk a little bit more about its performance. And it's one of the things that's really noted for is, it's just what a great radio it is for its reception. But I would say, as your average everyday, I just need, mom needs something, on the windowsill, or on her table by the chair, or something to listen to when she's out on the porch, or dad needs something in the garage, when he's tinkering with stuff, or down in the basement in his man cave, or whatever. If you were just looking for a basic, easy to use, dependable radio, it really is a great radio. Of course, it's got a premium sort of price tag, because you can definitely find lots of radios for a lot less money than the $100 price tag that these have. So if you're only ever going to tune in one station that came in really strong, maybe this isn't the right radio for you. I've said in other videos that I really kind of think you have to think about what your needs are. What's the best radio for one person isn't going to be the best radio for another person. But this really is a great sounding radio, easy to use. It does have great selectivity. It's just one that I think, because it didn't really do anything that made me think, wow, that's fantastic. Look how splashy this is or that is. It just does everything maybe quietly and competently. It's not really like in your face with any of the things it does, but everything it does well. Even stupid things. It's got this it's got this handle designed into it. I mean, no big deal. Lots of radios have handles, but it's a nice, easy design. Locks firmly in place, doesn't flop around. Like I said, the backlight works really well. Tuning it is nice and easy. So that's it. I probably spent more time talking about this than I meant to, so I apologize. But the CC Radio EP Pro, if you're looking for a basic radio, it's definitely one that's worth considering, and hopefully I'll get to talk about this one a little more soon. So until the next time, thanks for watching.